Everybody's got baggage. You've been divorced twice. You have herpes. You're a former alcoholic. You take antidepressants. You can't have biological children. Whatever it is, you're not alone. But that doesn't make it any easier in a world where first impressions are everything and men are impossibly picky. So how can you reveal your deepest, darkest secrets to the guy that you've been dating without scaring him away? Stick around and I will explain. I'm Marc, Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women and your personal trainer for love. Welcome to the Love You podcast. Keep listening to learn how to talk about your baggage when you're dating. When we're done, I'll let you know how you could apply to Love You to create a passionate relationship that makes you feel safe, heard, and understood. Once upon a time, I had a client who was in her early 60s and was extremely inexperienced with dating. And anybody who has been out of the game for a long time will feel overwhelmed. If I had to go back to dating after 15 years, I would be a little bit rusty and scared as well. But this woman was kind of off the charts scared. And she was particularly scared of just first date small talk because she knew when first date small talk came around, they'd have to get into real things. There's what you do and where you live and what do you do for fun. But eventually you're going to get around to, if you're 60, have you been married? Do you have kids? What's your relationship with your kids? Like that kind of stuff happens inevitably. So these are normal questions, but for my client, they brought a deep sense of shame. Here's why. When she was 20, again, this is a 60-year-old woman. When she was 20, she had a son out of wedlock. She's an unmarried mother. And she ended up raising that child herself and never getting married. And my client did a great job raising her son, and she was a responsible single mother, and she turned out great. Her son turned out great. It was a success story objectively. And yet the fear remained of telling a guy on a first date 40 years later that 40 years ago she made a mistake. That's how deep this fear of being our most authentic, vulnerable selves runs. She was afraid of telling a 60-year-old man that 40 years ago she had a kid, even though it's way, way, way ancient history. So some people go in the opposite direction. You've been out with dates with people who go in the opposite direction. I once went out with a woman from eHarmony right before I met my wife, who told me on our first date that she was a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, both. And turns out she's a delightful person, but as kind of like a squeaky clean, vanilla-ish guy, I wasn't able to see past that. And it was then that I figured out what I'm about to share with you, that if you have baggage, it's okay, we all do. What determines how well that baggage is received are two things. Number one, when you say it. Number two, how you say it. So where my eHarmony date miscalculated, in my opinion, was this. I mean, we could say that I'm a terrible person. That's one way of looking at it. I'm a terrible person for not giving her a chance. But if I were to be her dating coach and tell her to play her cards a little bit differently, I would say this. Her logic was, I got to be myself. And since this is some heavy stuff, better to drop it right up front on the first date. And you see people do this. And if the guy is scared off, well, that just means he's the wrong guy. And I see there's a certain logic to that, which is why you hear a lot of people telling you what's wrong with them right there on the first date. You've gone out with guys who tell you their shit right there on the first date under the idea of radical honesty. But I'll tell you, I don't think it's a really great way of doing it. I don't think it's the best way of doing it. I have my set of baggage, and I discovered it worked a lot better to reveal that baggage later on organically in the dating process over time. So my issue, not too shy to share it with you, is that I have a history of anxiety problems. I had a really tough time my senior year of college, and I spent my 20s going to shrinks and taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. And most of my problems actually were solved externally, just by getting a career that I could sink into instead of my struggling screenwriter career. That solved a lot of it. But those problems from my 20s, that time when I was overwhelmed by anxiety really helped to shape who I am, gave me a measure of empathy for other people who are struggling, and they're a part of who I am. And I don't try to actively hide that side of me either. It's not like I run around, this isn't the anxiety podcast. I'm not bragging about it, but I'm not shying from it if it's organic to what we're talking about. So the difference between me and my eHarmony date is that she dropped her drug addiction, boom, first glass of wine. I probably told my now wife, then woman I was seeing, about my anxiety sometime in the first month we were dating, but I chose to do so after I already knew that she liked me, after I know she made an emotional investment in me. And that's the big thing. People are actually quite forgiving of your flaws after they've already known you. So why tell them your secrets before they've earned the right to hear your secrets? That's fear, that's defensiveness, you're almost trying to scare them away if you do it up front. My wife, conversely, told me she was in credit card debt 9 months after we started dating. Was that a little bit longer than I might have wished if I were to rewrite that script? Probably. But it was a lot more effective than telling me on our first date that she was 40 grand in credit card debt. Why? Because I already loved her and I couldn't conceive leaving her over this. The next thing to consider, as I mentioned earlier, when you're sharing your secrets is how you say it. How is a big deal. Which is not to say that it's not about the baggage itself. I mean, some people's problems are worse or perceived as worse than others. But the thing that really sells it is your relationship to your baggage. I could talk about my 20s from a distance. Right? It's like I'm talking about someone else. I could tell the story in 30 seconds. I can answer questions about what that was, how it affected me from a distance without getting too attached, too emotional. Those problems don't plague me today. So it's a thing from my past and not my present. And because I have a handle on this issue, I could assure you, the person I'm going out with, that my issue is not going to affect you, which is what most people are concerned about. So imagine, for example, that someone has herpes. Right? That's his big secret, and he's going out with you. He could tell you they're right there over the Caesar salad, and then you could say, check please, I have herpes, check please. That's how that conversation usually goes. Or he can turn it into an event because he's so serious about doing this right. Jessica, for the sake of this, your name is Jessica. Jessica, we need to talk. Sit down. I have something to tell you. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I'm not quite sure how to say this, and I don't want you to freak out, but I have genital herpes. I'm sorry. Please don't leave me. That's another way to handle it, but that's a lot. That's pretty heavy, pretty insecure, kind of coming from the place of negative, treating this as if it's a huge deal instead of just a matter-of-fact deal. So that's where I want you to ultimately land, whatever your baggage is that you're thinking about as I do this podcast. The matter-of-fact place of confidence. You've been together a month, you're about to have sex for the first time, and he tells you, by the way, you should know that I have herpes. I've had it since I'm 23. It's mild. I'm on Valtrex, which controls any outbreaks. I don't even have any breakouts anymore. I always use condoms, so you're not really at risk. If you have any questions, I'm pleased to answer them. That's a guy who has a handle on it. So I'm not saying that announcing you have herpes is ever going to be a winner of a conversation, right? It's not a fun speech to give, but rather that having a sense of mastery and control over your situation to present your baggage in a sort of very quick, terse, matter-of-fact light is far more effective than melting into a puddle because you're so insecure that the person is going to run from you. People everywhere respond to confidence. People everywhere flee from insecurity. Let your date invest in you over and over and over again. Then reveal your full story over time when you start to feel safe with him. And chances are you're not going to have to worry about him up and leaving you over your deep, dark secret. Have you ever been afraid to share your stories with the man you're dating? Please comment in the section below if you're on YouTube. And in the meantime, I really hope this helps you communicate effectively in the future. You do not have to pretend that you just fell out of the womb and you have absolutely no blemishes in your past. You're allowed to be real. You're allowed to be authentic. Just want you to have a handle on how and when. I'm Marc Katz. Thanks for tuning into the Love You podcast. For more episodes like this on YouTube, click the subscribe button and ring the bell. Choose all to ensure you get notified when new content comes out. If you're listening to the audio podcast, please share an honest review on Apple. More reviews equals more awareness of the Love You podcast and more love in the world. And if you want to find love right now and you're committed to making healthier choices with men so you could have an easier relationship that makes you feel safe, heard, and understood, look for the link below and apply for coaching with me inside Love You. I'll talk to you soon.